This is Defenders TV Podcast, where we are looking at Marvel's Defenders Luke Cage recap, part 2.
You think I'm holding back? You think I'm holding back? I'm out to save you.
Welcome back, fellow Defenders, to this episode of Defenders TV Podcast, where we are recapping Marvel's Luke Cage in light of Season 1 and also in light of the Defenders series as well, where all the 4 street-level heroes came together to kick some hand ass. So, on with the show. I am one of your hosts, John.
I'm one of your hosts, Derek. Great to have that intro music back again. We don't give Mississippi McDonald enough credit for that theme tune. I think that's the best he's done. I love hearing that theme tune at the start of our Luke Cage coverage. And we're a couple of weeks away from Season 2 of Luke Cage.
And I'm your third host, Chris. We're going back to Harlem, gentlemen. Yes, Cheo Coker is taking us home, back to Harlem.
Yes, welcome back to the fellow Defenders for our discussion about Luke Cage. The reason why we're doing this is because we did the original Luke Cage recap for Season 1 and discussed where he ended off that show, but there were a couple of things that happened in Defenders which are really important to know before you get into Season 2. We know some of our listeners don't follow all of the shows. Some of them just follow things like Luke Cage. So if you didn't get the chance to actually watch the Defenders, here's a couple of really important things. These are spoilers for the Defenders, but a couple of really important things to remember. Or if it's been a long time since you watched Luke Cage, there's a couple of things that we need to talk about before we get into Season 2.
Yeah, so if you are looking forward to the second season of Luke Cage, then please head on over and subscribe to Defenders TV Podcast over on your podcast catcher of choice. There is Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or any other good podcast catcher that you can get through our website at defenderstvpodcast.com. Any feedback, discussion for all things Luke Cage, you can send them to us at feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com, or you can join our Facebook group, where, as always, we will be putting up spoiler-filled posts, but it will be protected from giving out spoilers as it shows up in your feed. So head on over to facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV Podcast and come on over and join the group of fantastic fellow Defenders that love talking about these heroes. And of course, you can also join our Facebook page as well. Just search Defenders TV Podcast.
Yes, but we'd also love to hear your dulcet tones on this podcast, if you will, with us. Why not record your feedback through the website at defenderstvpodcast.com, or email us actually your feedback if you don't want to. You just want to make your point heard at feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com. Okay, lads, I think it's about time. Let's jump in and replay our discussion of Luke Cage Season 1, and then we'll be back with our discussion of where Luke ends up at the end of Defenders before Luke Cage Season 2 kicks off onto our screens on June 22nd. I kind of, for the listeners here, what we're going to do is quickly talk about the showrunner, the directors, the kind of the guys who brought this all together. We're going to give a quick season synopsis of what everything kind of happened. We'll discuss some of those points. We'll discuss the main themes of what we liked and didn't like across this season. And then topping it all off at where our characters are at the end. Basically, where is Luke? Where are the supporting characters as we come into August 18th and they all show back up on our screens? Mm-hmm. So this was an interesting series, guys, wasn't it? This was so different from what we had previously gotten with the Marvel Netflix shows.
Yeah, absolutely. And also Luke Cage was another backdoor pilot, similar to what we talked about with the Daredevil show, where it was heavily focused on Punisher. He actually appeared in Jessica Jones and had quite a significant role throughout Jessica Jones, and then got his own show afterwards. But what's fascinating about this, I don't think we can start talking about the show at all without talking about the showrunner. More than any of the other showrunners, Cheo Coker, who ran Luke Cage, really put his stamp on this show and made this show completely his own. He comes from a music background. He's a music journalist who'd done Southland, the TV show. He'd done a bit of that before. This was his own show, and it really felt like this was a show defined by its music and by its situation in Harlem.
Absolutely. He really did add some amazing music to the shows that resonated with the themes and with the place of Luke Cage and in Harlem.
Absolutely. Everything from choosing the titles of each episode from Gangstar songs that were all out through the 90s. Everything from that to a moment with having artists standing on stage singing songs in the Central Club location throughout Luke Cage. It just seemed infused by music, and that's what a lot of people say Harlem is like. It's just a place infused with music. So absolutely the right person to run the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can't agree more that this whole show has been so musically influenced to the point where we actually have, for example, Method Man turning up in an episode and having the banter with Luke in a coffee, not even a coffee shop, I believe it was Delicatessen at the time.
Just a normal bodega, normal
corner shop.
shop. I love that moment because it's like Luke Cage fanboying with one of his favorite artists, which is a real, it's exactly what music journalists love doing. It's exactly what music fans love doing. The idea of just bumping into to your favorite artist from the 90s, and having that moment with him. That's really cool. But John, do you want to tell us what they gave us overall with the season synopsis for Luke Cage?
Sure. After losing his home, his bar, finding out the truth about the death of his wife, and being mind-controlled by Kilgrave, Luke Cage moves to Harlem to work in a barbershop. He hides his powers and works hard to live a normal life. But Harlem is in a battle for control as Cornell Cottonmouth Stokes is trying to seize the borough. Stokes soon realizes that Luke is in his way of his bid to take over and uses the power and influence of his sister politician Mariah Dillard. Things go south for Cornell when he takes more than he gives, and with a word in her ear from Enforcer Shades, Mariah takes out her rage on Cottonmouth, brutally murdering him. As Luke continues to take down gun runners and drug dealers with the help of Harlem PD officer Misty Knight, a former friend of Luke's comes out from the shadows to show he's had the power in Harlem all along and is ready to take down Luke. When a battle ensues, Luke soon realizes that a bullet has been created that can cause the bulletproof hero some serious damage. Not only that, but his former friend Willis Diamondback Striker has a powerful suit that absorbs any power aimed at him. With the support of Misty Knight and Claire Temple, Luke overcomes the odds to take down the crazed Diamondback.
So probably more than any of the shows that we've talked about so far, this one probably has the most villains or villainous characters.
Just slightly.
Yeah.
Just slightly.
And really central and really built up characters in this show as well, I think.
Some. And this is where I will argue with you in to a degree. We obviously had Diamondback not turning up till the second half of the show. And I do remember that we had some issues, probably issues too strong of a word, some feedback based on this character being Stryker and who he is.
He was certainly divisive, like a lot of things in this podcast. Again, I think I mentioned it on our Daredevil podcast. Having a 3-person podcast does mean that one person stands on one side and the other stand sometimes on the opposite side. So, I know that this definitely divided us, if possible, down the middle. Or into thirds. In terms of
thirds, I think, is the best
But
way.
the other characters, let's talk about the good ones, the ones that really didn't divide us to start with. So obviously Cornell Cottonmouth Stokes feels like he's the main bad guy to begin with. He's fantastically played by Oscar nominee Mahershala Ali. Really steps out from a role he formerly played in House of Cards. He was a main character on that show and then steps over into this central role for Luke Cage. Hadn't really seen him in too much before, but he really brings an intensity and a real history to the character. When we find out how soft Cornell is on the inside, when we hear that he was supposed to be a musician, he was going off to trying to get a job, trying to go off to Juilliard to learn piano, and then was pushed into this life by his aunt and has taken it on board. It's the whole reason why he has the music club, because he's trying to keep music central to his life, even though he's a brutal bad guy. That's kind of the main character that we think to begin with. And then obviously Mariah Dillard is the other main villain of the show, and I'd argue that she is our villain for the show. She goes through all 13 episodes, has the big arc like Kingpin did in Daredevil. And she feels like the one that has the biggest change and has become the biggest villain by the end of the series.
And I agree. There's no argument here from my side. Black Mariah is the true villain of this. It's just not until to like the last quarter of the show that you start to feel actually who she is. It's, you kind of think that, oh, maybe she's doing this because she feels she has to. Okay, maybe she's not. She goes through that character arc, as you said, from being the councilwoman who just deals with her kind of untoward cousin to being the actual person who seizes control of the rival gangs at the end. She really is. She was a fantastic character. The more I just kind of think back about, kind of like, I can't wait to see her maybe in Luke Cage season 2, but hopefully in Defenders, even a passing cameo, where we do know there are some gang related elements in the Defenders, so hopefully she may turn up.
I just like to see her on like TV in the background doing a speech because she's still a politician or something, you know, just to kind of reference the fact that she's still in control of Harlem.
Yeah, I mean, I think like these two characters, both Cottonmouth and Mariah, they're both fighting the influence and the strength of their mother or auntie, I think. And you really get a sense at the start anyway that it is Mariah who is doing that the best. She is trying to be a politician, do it through community, but she's having to deal with her brother, who is in charge of the drugs and the guns in Harlem through his club. And gradually over the season, you know, we see a few backstories of the two of them in Harlem with their auntie. And, you know, we then start to see Mariah beginning to change. And you understand that Cottonmouth actually is in a place where he doesn't want to be. He isn't the one that's taken on the advice of his guardian, back in the day, and really wants to do the music. And it's a great, thing, as you said, about him trying to maintain that through the club. And even that his uncle or his stepfather, you know, is also, totally consumed by his wife here, and is killed in the end, I think, by her, or as a result of something that's happened through her really trying to influence them to be a almost a crime family, to hustle really more than anything. And it's built up over the years. But we see, you know, Mariah then eventually, beginning to take on the mantle of her auntie. And that arc, I mean, Alfred Woodard does a really fantastic job with that arc, and I absolutely love it. And I do think that I mean, Diamondback is, you know, the contrast then that you get with Diamondback, who really just, he comes in all guns blazing, and there is no middle ground here. He's crazed, and he's on a mission to take down Luke Cage, and really put the final nail in his coffin. And that is just really interesting. The thing about the Diamondback story that I really like is just how he tries to impersonate Luke Cage. You know, we see the where he shoots the police officers, and then Luke is on the run. But yeah, Diamondback is slightly divisive here, I think. I mean, you know, at the time there was certainly that aspect of a series of two halves to some extent.
Yes.
You have a very much this lovely nuance of Cornell Stokes and Cottonmouth, and his relationship with Mariah, and you have the barbershop with Luke Cage, and that as a central hub for the community in Harlem, and you have the relationships with Misty Knight, but it's quite nuanced, and you just hear of Diamondback within the background.
You in fact see a lot more of Shades, his right-hand man, than you see of Diamondback throughout the show.
And with the death of Cottonmouth at the hands of Mariah, there is a kind of a change to the show. Absolutely.
Yeah, Chris, do you want to talk about that? Like, that's the shocking moment for this series. And again, as I say, the show is really based on music, and that's kind of the end of Harlem's Paradise as well. So the show does feel very different after the death of Cottonmouth.
Yeah, no, for me, this was, well, first of all, no, I don't think any of us were really expecting this. This was a complete left of field. And I remember watching it, three of us, we were one of the rare situations where we watch it together. And I remember all three of us turning to each other going, did that just happen? Like, they just killed their main bad guy. Okay, so maybe it wasn't their main bad guy, which is really interesting. And I think it basically was Cheo Coker kind of putting his, as you said, his stamp on this, but he was planting his flag, going, hey, everything you know and you think you know about this show, it's not.
Yeah.
And this is not the show you think it is. This is not the characters you think it is. This is not the main antagonist you think it is.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that he again continues to divert attention away from Mariah Dillard. Like any good politician, she's hiding the fact that she is the big villain. So when Cornell dies, everybody's focused. And I remember seeing their feedback. I remember hearing other people comment on the show, and they moved from Cornell Stokes to Diamondback and went, oh, Diamondback must be the bad guy. We talked about it a bit as well, as we went through the last couple of episodes, and we were kind of moving on to, oh, well, wait till Diamondback comes in. There must be a reason why he's hidden. Maybe it's a huge famous actor that's going to be coming in the show that we don't know about. And meanwhile, Mariah is building up in the background the whole time. I loved that. I thought it was a great concept for the series. Keep her in the background, give her more and more of what she craves, which is the power, and then just bring in an enemy for Luke Cage. And you can then go and take over the city. I thought that was a lovely touch.
Yeah, it's very much hindsight is 2020. Looking back on it now, I can see clearly what they were doing, building Mariah the way she was, and building her into this villain that will go across the next season or potentially Defenders. But at the time, I know we were very much, okay, where's Diamondback? Who is he going to be? Because we had this preconceived notion of what had happened with Daredevil and Kingpin.
Yeah.
But I want to take us on a slightly different tact. I want to bring us to Miss Knight.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I remember so much of loving this character, especially now, again, looking back on it, how that one scene where she is explaining, or with the other fellow, uniformed police officers, how hard it is to be a police officer in a world where people are superpowered now, where there is the Avengers, where you have Iron Man and Luke Cage. Like, I remember that scene. That's still such an amazing thing.
Yeah.
And I want to discuss that, but the one thing I do want to remind people is she still has both arms at the moment, which is really interesting.
They really played at that towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
I really love the character Mr. Knight. She's a cool as hell character. But they really played with it. I think that the last 4 episodes of the show, she has some form of ailment with her arm that she's checking it. She's being told by Claire Temple if she doesn't go to the doctor soon, she may lose the arm. There's loads of different points where they're playing with the expectation of comic book fans that she's going to lose that and then become the Misty Knight we know from the comic books, which is just them having loads of fun with us, really.
Yeah, definitely. And she plays really well. And it's the same with Claire Temple with Luke, because Luke is this kind of stoic figure, really. He's very serious in many respects, but both Misty and Claire, to an extent over time, that they are the ones to kind of, pull out, and lighten him a bit. I think, Simone Missick, who plays Misty Knight, is fantastic. And I'm really excited to see, her in the Defenders. And obviously Claire Temple is reprising her role and character in her through line between all of the different series. It focuses on Claire and Luke protecting her very much here.
Yeah, we definitely got more of Claire Temple as a character in this show. She tended to be a character that reacted to Matt Murdock in the first season. She was helping with Jessica Jones and Luke Cage in the Jessica Jones series. And in this series, you tend to find out much more about her. She's going back to visit her mother to get out of Hell's Kitchen because of everything that's gone on, and then walks straight into Luke Cage's life, which is, I think it's great having much more of Claire Temple. This is probably her best for me.
Yeah.
This show is probably the best we've seen of Claire Temple of all the times we see her in all the other shows, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think with just coming back to Misty Knight, I think her being a detective in, the police force in Harlem, and that role in terms of what she has to fight against and how she is investigating Luke, who really has had all this suspicion thrown on him, by Diamondback, in a way of trying to get the police ultimately to do his dirty work, and Misty sort of, realizing it's not that simple, and I think that's a really important kind of through line here, of her as a police officer and detective in the Harlem police force, working with there's Bailey, the forensics guy.
Yeah, played by Justin Swain, who we got to interview, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's Scarf, obviously, who's the double dealer, as well, and her having to deal with that kind of betrayal. So I'm really looking forward to, as I say, to seeing her in The Defenders. Obviously, there are Daughters of Dragons being posited as a possibility with Colleen Wing.
And she has been confirmed for season 2 of Iron Fist, working with Colleen Wing, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Again, with Misty, I remember kind of seeing Simone Missick and having a complete man crush on this woman.
You're allowed to have a man crush on a woman.
You actually got Misty over Misty Knight, didn't you?
I did. The character Simone Missick plays in this is just fantastic. I can't get enough. There are some points where you're a bit like, come on now, Misty, get it together. You're letting things kind of spiral out of control. But again, we're introduced to the character across 13 episodes. Cheo Croker built her in such a way, and now built her. It was a combination of both Simone Missick and obviously Cheo Croker, the writing and the actor themselves. But when she was lying in the basement of Harlem's Paradise, and you saw her losing the arm, or potentially losing the arm, and kind of having to battle that, I'm a cop, I should be out there, and then you see Claire going, sit the hell down. Like, that was the ultimate arc of when she even lets Luke go towards the end and then arrests Luke.
Yeah.
Like, you see this huge arc from going, remember in the very first or second episode, where she sleeps with Luke. And that was like, we were like, whoa, what just happened here? Like, you're cheating on Danny's woman. Well, Danny's not even in the picture yet, so I suppose it's okay. It was very interesting. Yeah. And a great character.
I just love that idea that just like anybody else who meets at a bar, they end off sitting together, and then it just happens that this is Luke Cage, and it's a really important character for the rest of Misty.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing is we do get some flashback to Luke's time in prison, and his genesis into the bulletproof Man of Steel. Oh, that's not necessarily the right phrase I should be using, but the man with unbreakable skin. And there's a great little nod to the tiara and cuffs as well, which we get from this. We get introduced to Dr. Noah Bernstein, who, of course, we see making his way into Diamondback's hospital room at the end. So Diamondback, despite being beaten in the end by Luke, could be back.
Yeah,
with skin as hard as diamond as well. So this is really nice little through line. Again, with his wife as well, we see that relationship. So that was good to see that, I think, for Luke Cage, to get that perspective of him in prison, effectively sort of being trained up to be a boxer and a bruiser, and that really then influences his fighting style, in and on the streets of Harlem.
Yeah, I think they did a good job with the creation of Luke Cage, without a doubt, and I love the idea of his wife's story changing the more he looked back on it and more he found out about her, the more you realise that there wasn't the connection between the two of them, that she was effectively playing him and trying to get into his life the whole time under instruction from other people. But Dr. Bernstein is a very important character. But Dr. Burstein, excuse me, is another important character, because we talked about it on our Jessica Jones podcast, that Luke Cage comes back into Harlem with the flash drive that his wife had gotten and that Jessica retrieved after the death of Kilgrave. So we do find out more about this flash drive. This was really important throughout Jessica Jones, that this information existed. So what we find is that this flash drive didn't just contain the information about how Kilgrave came to be and the experiments that were happening on kids. It also contained the information about how to help Luke Cage and how he got his powers. So we're assuming that this is where Burstein made a copy of the info from the flash drive. So we're assuming the reason that he comes in to Diamondback at the end of the series is because he has now discovered the way to recreate what's happened with Luke Cage. So Diamondback, as you say, could come back even more powerful the next time we see him, whether that be in Defenders or in Luke Cage Season 2.
I'm kind of hoping they don't use Diamondback for Luke Cage Season 2. I'm hoping we do get a secondary character with potentially some Diamondback. Maybe Diamondback comes in for one episode, knock the hell out, and then you kind of get you get Mariah and a secondary character. But it'll be interesting. Yeah. I suppose. Look, the one thing I kind of want to wrap things up and start moving towards where we ended the characters. And I suppose the one thing we haven't really talked about is, well, we kind of skirted around, is Luke Cage. The actual transformation the character goes through in this series, from a man down on his luck, lost his bar, lost his wife, works in Pop's barbershop, to then having to understand that he has to be the defender of Harlem. He is the man that needs to right the wrongs of Harlem, and goes through that genesis, as kind of John said. What do you guys think of, like, Mike Coulter as Luke Cage? We'd seen him in Jessica Jones. We knew the type of character and the man he would play, but we kind of got a much deeper appreciation for it now. What do you guys think?
Yeah, the show definitely added a lot more to the character of Luke Cage that we'd seen in the past. It's interesting to see him away from Jessica Jones, because in that show it was much more of how he's reacting to being in the life of Jessica Jones. This is him on his own, and we see a lot more of what Luke Cage is. I also think for the show itself, it was taking on a lot of huge themes. The idea of, we've said it on the podcast and got quite deep on it, but the idea of black culture in the US at the time, there was a lot of shootings happening, a lot of kids being shot by police officers. And you now have a black superhero who can't be hurt by bullets. They absolutely took that concept. There was definitely the Trayvon Martin incident that happened in the US. There was definitely reflected within the show, because Luke Cage is a kid wearing, a young man wearing a hooded top and getting shot at. So they definitely weren't straying away from those big ideas within this show.
Absolutely. And I think that even comes back, I think, as I said before, with Misty Knight, a black lady anchored in the police with absolutely positive and good intentions, being asked to chase down a black man who is on the run, and with a community whose outrage and voice is rising against the behavior of the police. And I think that those two elements, in terms of seeing those both sides, as well as the community reaction, I think is massively important. And it was great that a comic book TV series, a superhero TV series, could bring these contemporary elements into it and really work it into the story.
Absolutely. And one of the other elements that they brought in the themes of the show was the nature versus nurture question. The idea of Cornell versus Mariah. Mariah was being pushed towards a life of education. Cornell wanted that life, but was being pushed towards a life of crime. Even though they were both pushed in opposite directions, they effectively flip by the end of episode 7. Mariah has now become the criminal, and Cornell still just wants to be a musician, still just wants to go into the life of education, and gets killed by Mariah for pushing her too far. Then you have Luke versus Diamondback. They're supposed to be brothers. They're
Paternal brothers.
They're paternal brothers, exactly. There is the involvement of Luke's father, obviously. But yeah, going two completely opposite directions. Diamondback willing to rip apart and blow a hole in Harlem just to kill Luke Cage. Luke Cage rebuilding the city of Harlem after the attacks. I did like those kind of contrasts between the characters throughout the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought that was quite cool. Let's close out this bit about season 1 of Luke Cage with where he was at the end of that season, where everybody was at the end of that season before we go on to the Defenders.
Yeah. So Black Mariah has seized control of Harlem. The criminal element of Harlem are under her control, while still leading that double life as Mariah Dillard, the councilwoman.
And herself and Shades are totally together, right?
Yeah, Thea Rossi as Shades. We barely touched on them, but wow. Well, enough said, just wow.
He was great.
Yeah, and I think not only with Shades, and I remember when we were also wondering whether he had, lasers behind his eyes and so on because he was wearing the shades, that he had some kind of superpower potentially that he was trying to hide and keep under wraps. But also Eric, Mariah's PA and sort of campaign lead, where he really is absolutely loyal to her and says, I will get these things done.
Yeah.
Where
like a proper henchman.
Yeah, real henchman. I love that little conversation that they have in her house where he says, well, what do you want me to do? I'll arrange it. I think it's where Mariah looks to tail Misty Knight, I think. And that whole, kind of storyline.
Yeah.
So, that's another little thing that, she's got her, support around her as she sees control, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Our titular character is now back in the Slammer at the end of this series, which is very unique.
Was shocking.
Yeah.
That was shocking. He saves the city of Harlem. He's surrounded by all of the people that we've met in the city from the start of the series. And then the FBI guys, I think it is, come in and go, sorry, you broke out of prison. We need to bring you back. And the final scenes are of him driving through the city of Harlem, as he's taken off back to prison again.
Yeah, which I don't think any of us would have expected. The part of this that I'm more interested in is how he gets out. How is he? That we see in the trailers for Defenders, he is stepping off a bus. We don't know if that's stepping off the bus pre or post prison. So is he broken out again? Is Misty coming kind of bring him out? We have no idea.
Well,
so it's
Claire
quite
does
interesting.
have a lawyer friend now that can help her out.
She does. So let's see where that happens.
And a billionaire friend with a law firm on retainer.
That's true. And
a woman who can fly.
And all the information that was left in Pop's barbershop that could get Luke off. That's all there. There's definitely the ability to get him out. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. That's probably our starting point for Luke, obviously, is that he is still behind bars at the beginning of that series. So
yeah.
Interesting to see.
And then kind of where we are with Diamondback, he's in hospital. Bernstein has, as John has already mentioned, is visiting him, and that's really it. And then we have we are given Derek, as you said, we're given to understand that Bernstein has made a copy of the flash drive, the yellow flash drive that Jessica retrieved, and then that Luke brought into this series with him. And then of course we've got Misty, who's kind of there. She saved helped save the day towards the end of the episode, and she's obviously going to be in this next series with hopefully with some form of appearance. I'm hoping more than just a cameo. Hopefully she's just more kind of a bit more like Claire and Colleen. We'll get a couple of scenes, more than just one scene with her in the Defenders.
Yeah, and kind of the big thing with Misty is that she is at odds with the police force now after everything has gone on. We know we see her interviewing Jessica, so in the trailer for Defenders, so we know she is still involved in the police force. She does have an interview moment, and that's where Matt and Jessica meet. So she's definitely still involved in the police force, but she is at that point of questioning everything that's going on. The people above her are under control of many other people, so she's starting to question her need to be to be on the Force. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a good storyline for Misty within Defenders.
Yeah. So guys, overall, I have to, from my side, I obviously want to get yours. Like I really enjoyed Luke Cage. There was some elements I enjoyed less. And if you want to find out what ones those are, please go back and listen to all 13 episodes of our kind of spoiler-filled recaps.
Nice promotion, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. No, overall it was good. I think potentially for me, the larger thing with this show was the comment on society at that point in time, that snapshot, while still telling a Marvel Netflix universe story, and a good one at that. There was some ups and downs, but we did finally get to see, as John said, the man himself in the tiara and bracelets looking like a damn fool. There you go. So what do you guys think?
For me, this is a show about theme, without a doubt. The kind of the interesting thing, as I say, is a show run by a person who loves music so much, and it's all about theme, musical themes. But it is fascinating. There's so much stuff that's going on in the show. I think this is probably, of all of the shows, this is probably the slowest. It's the show that's more deliberately paced than any of the shows. I've heard a lot of comments from people, some of the listeners, who dropped off this series because they weren't able to. The pacing wasn't the same as other shows. We commented that it was the one show that didn't have huge cliffhangers at the end of every episode. But I really enjoyed it. Thinking back and looking back on episodes of this show, some of the characters that are in here are some of the best in the Marvel universe. And I've really enjoyed spending time with them over the series. And the music got me through so much. Just wonderful moments. Jadana on stage singing "Long Live the Chief." The perfect moment to encapsulate who the character of Cottonmouth is, done through music. It's fabulous. Really enjoyed the show.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Luke Cage. I think primarily just as you say, Derek, the themes that run through it. But I just think those contrasts and swap overs between the likes of Cornell and Mariah. I absolutely loved Cottonmouth. I loved his kind of fairly tragic story, and then obviously getting killed by his own sister. And I just think them swapping roles. I think Luke is as this stoic hero who is finding his way. He's been through a lot, and the reveal of his wife through his memories, working with Dr. Noah Bernstein. It's a real cutting moment for Luke as he, the lovey-dovey element of what he thought between him and his wife really starts to come into focus. There are a few moments I think for me were, I think because of just the pacing of it, to begin with, up to probably episode 8 or 9, and then just the sheer crazy chaoticness of Diamondback coming in. It felt a little jarring, that, I think, initially. Like, he was very much over the top, which felt at odds with what the show had delivered up till that point. But I mean, still, you cannot take away just how quality this entire series was, I really enjoyed it.
Okay, so let's get on to our updated recap of Luke Cage after the Defenders.
So, as I mentioned earlier on, there are a few things that changed at the end of the season. We talked about in the podcast about season 1, we talked about the fact that Luke Cage ended off being in prison. We wondered how they'd get him out. The first big thing is this was the first big crossover between characters that happened in the Defenders. We have Foggy Nelson working for Hogarth Charon Benowitz, and he's the one that gets Luke Cage out of prison in the Defenders. A great little scene there between the two of those where at the end, Foggy tells Luke Cage that he's called Foggy. That's the name that he chooses. And Luke looks at him and goes, "You actually let people call you that?"
Yeah, absolutely.
He also confirms he's now going by Luke Cage. He's not going by his original name. As he leaves prison to Foggy, this is his name. He has chosen Luke Cage. That is a change from season 1, where we found out his past, that he is now going by the name of Luke Cage.
It's a good name. It's almost as good as Jessica Jones, but let's not leave. I won't go there. This is his show. This is his time to shine. And speaking of old JJ, Luke has now actually patched things up with Jessica. So even to the point where he asks her out for coffee, which is, he's got a clear temple. He's got a night nurse.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't like our lusty Luke, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, not only is he on at least speaking terms with Jessica Jones now, but he's kind of got a swagger going on in Harlem. Really see in the Defenders that everyone in Harlem recognizes him. He's almost famous as this person who will stop crime. And of course, in the Defenders, we really see, and it's part of how these interconnected stories come together, at least for Luke Cage's part. It's him going out trying to stop criminals, gangs, and kingpins, I suppose, of these gangs. It's because of that it connects in with the other aspects of Iron Fist and Jessica Jones and, of course, Daredevil through the Hand. He's there out trying to make Harlem a safe place.
Yeah.
But again, there's also that sort of tension with the police about what is he trying to do as well with Misty Knight. So it's something now that we see him being pretty well known on the streets and people seeing that kind of hero to look up to, whilst he is still trying to make those streets safe for everyone in Harlem.
And he kind of used that to his benefit in the Defenders, where he was investigating a crime that had happened, a murder that had happened, and he was using the fact that he was famous, the fact that people knew what he was capable of to get that investigation forwarded. So I think they're definitely going to be taking that on to season 2 of Luke Cage, and that he is now well known in Harlem as the protector of Harlem. Don't mess with Harlem or you're messing with Luke Cage kind of thing.
Yeah, it's that whole thing again where he is quite open that he is this superhero, compared to, say, Daredevil, who keeps his identity secret. And indeed, then there's Jessica Jones, who really doesn't give a shit. But it is known. She is known.
Yes.
As is Danny Rand, but obviously his alter ego is not so well known.
Exactly. Speaking of Danny Rand, another big, huge moment for all of us comic book fans that happened during the Defenders is the meeting of Luke and Danny. I loved how they dealt with this. We had the kind of privileged white guy in Danny Rand meeting up with Luke Cage, kind of like a little lost puppy trying to find a new friend in Luke Cage. I love the interplay between the two of them because Luke is instantly pushing against this kid. He's kind of going, you are not the type of person I would hang around with. But by the end of the show, they really do find a good balance between the two of them. They find that kind of relationship that we love from the comic books where these two can possibly go and be good friends and work together in the future.
I think there's certainly a willingness from Danny to connect in with Luke. I think Danny hears what Luke has to say about his wealth and his money and what that can give him. But yeah, it's certainly a little bit of a rocky road here. Steps are made by Danny in the Chinese restaurant, bringing everyone together with food, and certainly giving his last dumpling to Luke, which was very cute. And then, of course, the fact that Danny Rand gets tied up again to kind of protect him from himself to some extent, to protect him from the Hand who are trying to get hold of him, to open up that door that requires the Iron Fist. And again, it's Luke that is asked to watch over him. And whilst things are tense though, things have broken down a bit, that there's a gradual realization through the chit chat that they have, there's a bit of common ground here. And so definitely, we are expecting to see some Danny Rand Heroes for Hire-esque type, events in season 2 of Luke Cage. Or at least I am. Or at least I want them to be.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure we're going to get that because unfortunately
Spoilers.
we do, during the Defenders, a certain Misty Knight does become more comic book accurate as she loses her arm.
Oh yeah.
It's Colleen, Misty, and Claire Temple have teamed up in the Defenders. They're kind of the trio. And yes, unfortunately, so Missy does lose her arm. But at the end of it, of the season of the Defenders, what we do get is a brush away comment about how Danny Rand has a biotics department and can possibly get her an arm. So, diverging from the comic books where it was Tony Stark giving a Stark Tech arm to Misty Knight, I am assuming in this season what we will end up getting is midpoint, maybe. Danny, he'll come in to help Luke, but at the same time to deliver Misty a biotic arm with gadgets and tech with wizardry and everything in between.
Exactly. And if this was in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we'd actually probably have Rocket Raccoon coming in with one of his stolen arms that he's taken from somebody else to give to Misty. But I do like that change. I think it makes a lot of sense with Danny's access to all of his wealth and the research side of his company. You know, it does make a lot of sense to have him be the one to give Misty the arm. Tony walking in out of nowhere and giving her the arm would have been nice a couple of years ago when we thought these were going to cross over a bit more with the movies, but can't really imagine that they'd have Robert Downey Jr. walking on the set of this show. So yeah, I think it's a good change.
Definitely.
It makes sense. It's just that we haven't really been told that Danny Rand or Rand Industries is as technologically advanced as Stark Industries.
Yeah.
So it's much
more of a pharmaceutical.
It's more
company, isn't it?
pharmaceuticals, holdings, that type of thing. Rand Industries. So they'll need to make this slightly plausible in that.
Yeah.
Hey, we've actually had this research department working with biotics and for amputees for years. Here is the ultimate prototype that we have. I want you to have it. So they'll just need to explain it. But I have faith here.
Yeah, and I must say it was hugely exciting to see Misty and Colleen and Claire Temple working together in the Defenders. It's always cool to see these characters working together, and they felt like they were their own Defenders. The Daughters of the Dragon joining up, these three women fighting the Hand in their own way, completely differently and separately from the Defenders.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing these three ladies on screen in season 2 of Luke Cage, and I expect they will come together at some point.
Yeah, definitely. So, gentlemen, is there anything else that came out of the Defenders that we need to know for going into season 2 of Luke Cage?
I think we've really still got Luke Cage here as, in effect, a man of peace. Yes, he will use his fists. He will brawl. He will kick. He will headlock. Half Nelson, full Nelson, a foggy Nelson. But, he is certainly reluctant to kill anyone because of his principles that have come from prison to some extent, but also through the barbershop and just that ethos and morality that has come through the community and this sense of justice. That he would prefer to put them behind bars and get justice and everything brought out in the wash of that, a court case or whatever, rather than using lethal violence.
Yeah. It was quite interesting to have him in that contrary position to the rest of the Defenders when they were going in to blow up the building where the Hand, where he was the one taking the point of view that, well, we don't want to kill anybody here. Why would we use huge bombs to destroy this building? People may die. That's not what Luke Cage is about. So it's good to have him as that kind of moral point of view. I loved the reaction from Jessica, which was basically, I just want this done. I want to get out of this whole situation and get back to my real life. I love that kind of attitude between the two of them. And she is the closest to him. And obviously that's where he started out, was in Jessica Jones season 1. So it's good to have that kind of interplay between those two characters as well. I'd love to see her appear in season 2. As we said, they've mended their relationship. I'd love to have a moment in season 2 where we have her turn up, but I don't think she's going to. I think the only crossover we're going to get is, as we mentioned, Danny coming in for an episode to give that arm to Misty Knight. I think that's the only crossover we're going to actually get, because it feels like Luke's story in season 2 is going to be much more about him, much more about Misty, and Colin Wing, I believe, will probably pop in as well in season 2, but I don't think we're going to see any of the other big players.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the same way that Luke Cage didn't feature in any way for season 2 of Jessica Jones. And that was a shame, given that he was introduced through Jessica Jones season 1, and they had that rapport as well. And given the comic books where these two are a couple, it would be nice to see Jessica Jones there, but obviously, he's got Claire Temple at the moment. So we'll just see how that develops, but we're not expecting to see JJ in season 2 of Luke Cage.
Yeah.
I really do think that the focus of this season is going to be about the fall of the famous, if you will. So Luke Cage now is famous in Harlem. He is the protector of Harlem. He has a target on his back. So, like, if you know someone is consistently unbreakable, you're going to end up having this string of people trying to break him. You're also going to be, when you're that famous, when you are the face of Harlem, what happens when you fall? And I think that's going to be the interesting part, which is, like, throughout the Defenders, it was noted, cocky is the wrong word, but you can see there's an element here of where Luke Cage relies too much on the legend that is Luke Cage. So, what is going to happen when that legend is no more?
Yeah. He certainly plays on his reputation, and certainly even from the trailer, there is an element of give it all you've got, guys. You're not gonna touch me, in that sense.
Absolutely. Really good to point out here, fellow Defenders, that because of a big spoiler that was in one of the trailers for Jessica Jones, Chris is not watching the trailers coming up to season 2 of Luke Cage. Is that right, Chris? I think the marketing department spoiled something quite big for you last time, so you're kind of burnt on.
I am. I'm not this type of person, but this has been. So what I've seen of Luke Cage season 2 is it really a trailer? The one where he's in the sports field and it's like the teaser trailer, I suppose. That was what we got, where he flings the tire down the end of the
kind of like an NFL training session.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is what I have seen.
Yeah.
The internet being the internet, and Facebook feed being Facebook feed,
and Derek being Derek.
Yeah, I have seen some things that are happening. I'm assuming, such as I know who the main villain is, but that is about it. I have not seen who or what or why. This is going to be an interesting one. I've never gone in blind, if you will, but let's wait and see. This will either help or hinder the experience. Time will tell.
Absolutely. And we don't really do a defend of the season when we're doing these kind of recap discussions. This is really just about how Defenders impacted Luke Cage. But Chris, what do you think from the show? Do you think there's a couple of big impacts that happened to Luke Cage? Is it something that you have to watch before season 2 of Luke Cage, do you think? Or could you skip it?
I would recommend that they don't skip it. I think this is one big universe. While some people did not enjoy the Defenders, I still think it moved the characters forward in a lot of ways. Yeah. So I would recommend watching it. It's 8 episodes, short. You're going to be in and out. You're going to enjoy it. And I think that, like, between now and the 22nd, you've got loads of time. One a night. You're one every 2 days. You're fine.
There you go.
But I do think it's going to get you to a point where you'll understand a bit more what's going on, the relationships, the pieces there. That being said, these seasons, these shows are made somewhat standalone. So if you do not have time, if you do not feel like going back to Defenders, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. I think the big one really is the end of season 1 had him going off to prison, and season 2 he's going to be out of prison. That was all done in a big scene at the beginning of the Defenders. If you don't know that, if you're just literally watching through 13 episodes of Luke Cage season 1 and go on to the next season, you're probably going to be going, hang on a second, that was quite a big moment for Luke getting taken off to prison at the end of that season. How's he out? So I presume that's probably the big piece. We did talk about it on our season 1 recap. It was kind of mentioned in dialogue by Foggy that it was the file that Bobby Fish had inside the barbershop. He found that and worked with Hogarth, Cheo and Benowitz to get Luke out. So it was that file that got him out of prison, but it was a real throwaway kind of line. I wonder, will they revisit that at the start of season 2 just to give a bit more in-depth for those people that are watching Luke Cage as a series?
I think they will. I think they're going to have to. I think what we'll probably get is an opening within the first 20 minutes of episode 1. We'll have Foggy come back and a quick meeting. I was like, here's an update on your case because I'm your lawyer and I got you out of jail. Something along those lines.
Maybe.
Yeah, and will there be any reference to Avengers Infinity War?
That's an interesting one. I don't think
Probably
so.
not. Yeah, exactly.
I don't think so. I think the decision that Marvel TV have taken on things like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., for example, putting it into next summer for the next season of the show after Avengers 4 comes out, kind of means that all of these Netflix shows, even though they're being released before Avengers 4 comes out, I think none of them will be connected to Infinity War. I think they'll all take place before the events of that movie so that they can avoid having to explain it at all.
Absolutely.
Until we've seen the impact of it. And I don't want to spoil it here because some people don't watch the movies either until they come out in Blu-ray. So there is a huge impact. It will have an impact there, but I think Marvel Netflix particularly are going to take it as we may have to mention in the line of dialogue after Avengers 4 comes out. So that means Jessica Jones season 3, Daredevil season 4, possibly Luke Cage season 3, Iron Fist season 3. I think they may mention in a line of dialogue in those shows that something happened, but I think they will avoid it as much as possible until Avengers 4 comes out.
I think what will end up happening is when Avengers 4 comes out, it retcons the Infinity War, so no one ever needs to mention it again.
Yeah,
and I think that was probably what we'll get is, hey, did you hear the green guy's back? Oh, the guy with Captain Shield America, or Captain Shield, is no longer with America. We'll get that. We're not going to mention them directly by name, but we're going to insinuate as a dropped line, that's kind of thing, that this has happened.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think I'm definitely looking forward to Luke Cage season 2. I really want to see Luke Cage gets, another 13 episodes, how he develops. Also, there's Black Mariah and Shades
of course.
As well.
Yeah.
Fantastic to see how they interact. And of course, we do know that there will be another big villain here. Plus, we've still got the doctors, the evil Frankenstein-esque doctors working on Bulletproof Skin. What's happened to them? And of course, we will have the lovely sort of Daughters of the Dragon type lineup here with Misty, Colleen, and Claire Temple. And of course, a little bit of Heroes for Hire as well, with hopefully the emergence of Danny Rand. So really looking forward to this. We would love to hear what your thoughts are on Luke Cage season 2. Please head on over to our Facebook group, as we talked about earlier, facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV podcast. Come and join us over there. Join the Defenders community, and you can talk about all the things you're excited about and any of the discussions when the episodes are released on the 22nd of June with the spoiler posts. And of course, if you want to send it by email, then feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com. And of course, as Chris mentioned earlier, we have a voicemail. So if you want to get your voice over on the airways, go to defenderstvpodcast.com, and on the right hand side you'll see the leave voicemail tab, and you can leave up to 90 seconds of your thoughts on all things Luke Cage and Luke Cage season 2.
Excellent. Yeah, really looking forward to talking about Luke Cage. We didn't even get the chance to mention how awesome the music was in season 1. We mentioned it in our recap. The big thing for season 2, they already released 7 or 8 artists that are going to appear on the show doing songs in the show. This is something so unusual for the Defenders shows that have been on Netflix. But this is such a focus of Cheo Coker and was so good in season 1. Didn't really replicate it as much for the Defenders, that idea of the bands and the music of Harlem being so influential on the show. But I'm really excited to see some of these artists on Luke Cage season 2. Can't wait to start binging it from June 22nd.
Yeah, no, really looking forward to it. I know you're going to have that Spotify playlist ready for us. It's day 1, so it's going to be good. And we're going to be releasing 2 episodes a week from the 22nd. But as you know, this is all for your own pace. If you want to binge ahead, go for it. Just remember that not everyone does watch every episode over the course of the release weekend. So if you are putting any notes out or any posts, just mark up what episode you're talking about so we don't spoil us, your lovely host, or even your other fellow defenders. I know it's a bit of cringy because it makes you have to do it every time, but just think, would you like to be spoiled? And that is the question. But watch along at your own pace. Come listen to us at your own pace. We will have 2 episodes every week for you, and it's gonna be good. to just make sure that you pop over to defenderstvpodcast.com and go subscribe so that you make sure you get every episode as we release it.
Absolutely. Really looking forward to getting back, fellow defenders. Talk to you on the 22nd of June.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you as always for listening, and we will speak with you very soon on the 22nd of June.
Yes, thank you so much. Sweet summer.
Sweet, sweaty summer. Bye.
You think I'm holding back?